Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Highlands of Chaos as D&D 3.5 characters, video 3. Today we're going to talk about Sir Geoffrey the Wharghoul. I said before that I was going to start with, in video 2, I said that I was going to start with people who are already introduced into this campaign and start to kind of build the world so people have an understanding of what's going on. So in my campaign, the Wharghoul, or Sir Geoffrey, is kind of the first character my PCs met. They are in service to him directly as captains of his guard, or of his actual military that's stationed down here. Return of the Terrible Map. Sir Geoffrey has his own lordly holdings. He is Lord of the Deathhold. The Deathhold is one of 2 castles that's situated in the no man's land between the border of Bonehammer and Corinta as a whole. So I've actually been using Geoffrey, as I said in my intro video, this whole time, and so here he is in miniature form. So we'll start by, just the same as we did before, kind of digging into the model and kind of like going piece by piece, and then we'll dig into the character sheet a little bit. So hopefully this video will be shorter than the kind of first video, and that was the introduction, and then the kind of video for Rem where I talked about my painting style and priming and stuff. So since I've already covered how I paint them, I'm not going to cover that again in any other videos. So starting with the model, so Sir Geoffrey in the game is a kind of older knight, which fits Wharghoul because he's kind of physically the oldest amongst us. Even though he hasn't been in the game as long as some other people, he's the old man among the crowd. Wharghoul, while you'll never see him in Belagarth in anything other than green and gray on the field, his actual night colors are black and gold, and so I have rendered that here, a combination of those 2 things here in the model. One of Wharghoul's favorite weapons in Bel is a quad hammer that I had made for him called Orcbane, and so I've translated that here with this heavy mace and into his model, and then also on his character sheet. And then here at his side there is a masterwork longsword, because Wharghoul, at least as long as I've known him, has fought primarily with a sword. And then there, also on his hip, is a throwing axe to give him some melee or some range capabilities. His shield is a heavy wooden shield. You can kind of see the wood grain. I don't know how well the picture is going to render it, but painted green underneath there, you can kind of see the wood vein. I'm actually waiting for Wharghoul's symbol is very complex. It's a Chaos Star with a really intense horned demon skull in it, or a Wharghoul skull, and so I'm kind of trying to look into some Warhammer 40k iconography that would give me that. Digging through the Chaos Demons bits is, tedious at best, so eventually I intend to have that affixed here to the front of his shield as a device, but until I can get a hold of that, it stands plain green. It's got there the silver banding, and then Wharghoul is in full plate, +3 full plate, which makes him a tankety tank. He's wearing a black and gold cloak here on the back, and then I think probably what's most impressive about his model is that Crusader looking helm, which Wharghoul has I'm going to try to find a picture of it to include, but if I can't by the time I actually put the video together, trust me, he's got a helmet that looks similar to this. So there's kind of the model in all of its glory. For Hero Forged, I used the large body human male, which actually makes him a little taller when you set him next to some of the other models. You put him next to Rem, he's actually slightly bigger, which is good because Wharghoul's also one, if not then one of the tallest Knights of the Highlands. So not only is he the oldest guy there, he's also one of the biggest, and so he cuts a very impressive figure, and his model does here as well. So we'll move on to the character sheet, which will kind of reflect some of the things, in game. So looking here, I've already talked about how I reached the stats, but there's the block: 18 strength, 14 dex, 18 con, 16 intelligence, 16 wisdom, 18 charisma. Sir Geoffrey is a leader of men and a commander in the provincial lords army, very high up, and he's also a noble. In Corinta, all knights have some form of nobility, so here we are. Guy's got his own castle, which is pretty much a big deal. Hit points there. I reached them the same way as I did Rem's, and then combining. There's the weapon block. For Wharghoul in particular, there is in one of the Faerun books a prestige class called Hordebreaker, and one of the things that in Belegarth, Wharghoul's unit, the Chaos Guard, they hunt monsters, and in the Hordebreaker stuff for D&D, they got any monstrous race that lives in a horde. They get tons of bonuses to them. So specifically, it mentions orcs, goblins, gnolls, which are the three favorite enemies that basically they account for favorite enemies that the Wharghoul's going to get, and other monstrous races. And so it worked really well in the game where Jeffrey's his castle is right there on the border next to all these intelligent monstrous races. So he has gained this kind of knowledge. And then I'm going to come up with a cool story in the lore about how he fought like 100 orcs or whatever and killed them all with his great heavy mace. Mash their brains in. So here in the weapon area, you can see that +3 heavy mace. That is Orc and Goblin Bane. That is Orc Bane. Quite the attack block there. Also that Masterwork Longsword and the Throwing Axe are listed. Coming down past the saves, Fort 11, Reflex 9, Will 11, kind of sets that Knight and Hordebreaker against each other as far as the saves go, and you get these either side of Reflex, these solid saves. Down in the equipment, +3 full plate, as I mentioned, +1 spear block, heavy wooden shield. Moving on to page 2. There that is again, the adventuring gear, the knight's livery, which I discussed both of those in REMS, so I'm going to point you back that direction if you want to know more about why they're listed that way and what's included. And then here we have the first instance of lordly holdings. Several of the Knights of the Highlands are also lords in Belegarth. Their realms have given them land in appreciation for their service to the game. And so while I don't know if Karayan has landed Wharghoul or not here for the purpose of my game, he's Sir Geoffrey, so he's got these lordly holdings, his own castle. And so then that is listed there, lordly holdings, the Deathhold. In the game, and if you're interested in kind of knowing more about the Deathhold, I guess I can do a separate video where I just talk about everything that's gone into the kind of background of the specific game. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. I'll tag that video here at the end. But the Deathhold's a massive castle. It's got all the things you might think of in a medieval castle, one that's built for war. And then it's got peasant lands stretching out on the south-facing side. It's just pure stone because that's where the bad guys come from. And then to the north of the immediate north of the Deathhold, that's where you're going to find all the peasant lands and stuff, which my PCs have taken turns kind of going through and being Justicars and helpers and those kind of things. So down in his magic items worn, he has the Helm of Fear, which is a pretty common, basic SRD helm. It's got the ability to cause fear, like a fear aura of a dragon 3 times per day. He has a Greater Piwafi. That's the cloak there. There's a real dearth of neat cloaks in the Magic Item Compendium and stuff, and they all kind of have stock one-off abilities or things that aren't all that useful. So in order to kind of reflect Sir Geoffrey's time on the plane and fighting these monstrous races, I gave him a Dark Elf cloak, which will actually be a gift from Sir Kage. And here it just gives a +5 to hide. It's one of the Magic Item Compendium things. He's got that Ring of Protection, which is actually going to be a pretty common magic item amongst all the Knights of the Highlands. He's got that +3 full plate I mentioned. He's got a shirt of Iron Skin. The shirts, the variety of shirts from the Magic Item Compendium, you'll also see a lot of those. Just because I think they're pretty neat and they're a really relatively inexpensive way to get some DR, which for these guys who spend their lives hunting, evil things, that's probably a good thing for them to have. And then a healing belt. This will be another common magic item. Healing belts are, I can't say this enough, if you're a 3.5 character and you don't wear a belt normally as a magic item, buy a healing belt. Your cleric cannot thank you enough. Your dedicated healer cannot thank you enough, so you can handle your own stuff. So there's that magic item list. Just like with Sir Rem, that third page where I kind of, it's the magic and animal companion thing, that is blank for Sir Geoffrey. He's not a spellcaster in any way. So I'm just going to skip past that and come to the kind of back page here. There are the relevant skills. Here it looks like, if you had to call out, if you're talking about the signature skill, which is the highest bonus, Jeffrey has plus 13s in local and nobility. Part of the Horde Breakers thing is having a real understanding of the local hordes, and so I would probably say knowledge local is his best thing, but he's also got 13s in spot and survival, which kind of reflect that long history of campaigning against monstrous races in the south. Up there at the top right, you kind of see the class features were so many I had to drop them down to that feat column. A couple of the other Knights of the Highlands, you're going to see that happening. There's more class features than there are feats. But he's got all the stuff from the Player's Handbook 2 Knight stuff. Some nifty things from Hordebreaker. I mentioned they get Horde Enemy, which is basically favorite enemy. He's got it for Orc, Goblin, and Gnoll. He's got Horde Knowledge, which gives him a bonus check, or a bonus to knowledge checks revolving around Horde. And then he's got a couple of things that really can cause a horde to scatter, or that's neat for crushing them in the form of Anvil of Doom and Hold the Line. So those are kind of really nifty things that make fighting outnumbered, which is kind of funny. There's a story, maybe some of you were there watching this, from a Manetherian event in Mountain Home, Idaho several years ago, where when Wharghoul turned 40, he wanted to fight 40 relatively new fighters all at once in his full armor. It was very funny. Instead of getting him 40 candles on his birthday cake, it was the joke was we got him 40 noobs. So fun was had by all. So that kind of reflects, again, those kind of in sword fighting things that I want to carry over to the character sheet. So, and then for languages, it makes sense if he's there, if he's studying Orc, Goblin, and Gnoll. I didn't actually give him Goblin as a language. I want to highlight the language section. He's got Orcish and Gnoll. I tried to get a good balance of languages amongst all the knights. And then Elven is kind of a weird standout. It's not one of the monstrous races, but Jeffrey does have a large number of elves in service. In fact, one of the PCs, their whole company is elves, and so it makes sense then to kind of have this Elven as a language. If you were to pick up another language, if you advanced them at all and put it, then of course the next one would be Goblin. There in the feats, Power Attack, Cleave, Great Cleave, all good things when you're fighting hordes of enemies. And then I used from the Player's Handbook 2 the combat feats, Combat Focus, which kind of lets you go into a trance, and then Combat Vigor, Combat Stability, which gives you can break out of your trance in order to give a bonus against Bull Rush and Trip. But the really important one is Combat Strike. You can kind of slip into your combat trance and then slip out of it to deliver a focused, extra damage, so you're just crushing people there. So yeah, that's the character sheet and the model. Of course, as I talk, I'll probably filter through pictures of Wharghoul so you can see it. But yeah, again, thanks for visiting. Thanks for checking out video 3. Video 4 will be next week, and we'll get that taken care of as soon as I can. I'll make sure it gets posted. Any comments, you can leave them here, or you can send me a message on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks very much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in video 4.